Well, hello everyone. Can you hear me all right? Good. I was asked to give a talk today on a subject of my choosing, and so I've chosen something that I feel quite strongly about: the nature of time. What is time? There are lots of questions that have been asked and are still being asked about time. Of course, we cannot hope to even begin to address them all today, but it should be interesting to list just some of them. What is time? Some philosophers have believed that time does not really exist at all. Most thinkers today seem to feel that it does exist, but few can agree about what it actually is. Aristotle suggested that time is the measure of change, but time is not change itself, because the change may be faster or slower, but not time. Plato and Isaac Newton believe that time exists whether anything happens and things change or not, while Aristotle and Gottfried Leibniz believe that time is the ordering of events and needs events in order to exist. We think of time in terms of past, present, and future, but if there is a present, how long does it last? Why does time always move in the same direction, from the past into the future? Plato seems to agree with the idea that time began when the universe came into existence. In the dialogue Timaeus, he suggested that there was a creator of the universe who also created time. Quote, "For there were no days and nights and months and years before the heaven was created, but when he constructed the heaven, he created them also." Immanuel Kant, 1724 to 1804, believed that both space and time are constructs of the human intellect, which we need in order to make sense of a universe which we can never know as it really is. It is only by the use of space and time that we can organize the data which is being received by our senses. Interesting idea. Is time a series of separate moments happening one after another, or is time one thing flowing like a river? We used to agree with Newton, Isaac Newton that is, of course, that time was an absolute framework which was the same in all parts of the universe. But since Einstein's theories of relativity, we realize that time can pass at different rates depending on where one is in the universe, so that the same event may appear to happen at different times to different observers. St. Augustine, about 1600 years ago, said, "I know well enough what time is, provided that nobody asks me. But if I am asked, I try to explain, I am baffled." He suggested that the past no longer exists. The future does not yet exist, and the present has no duration, being merely a point or dividing line between the past and the future. So, from this viewpoint, it looks like as if time doesn't exist at all. When can it exist? But time clearly does exist. The very fact that you can hear me talking to you now seems to prove it. Each word I speak takes up a certain amount of time. I'm speaking the words in a particular order, which makes sense grammatically. The fact that this is a sequence of words suggests that it must be happening as an event in time. Let's look briefly at three current theories about time. One, the presentist theory. Only present objects and experiences are real. Everything else doesn't exist. Two, the growing universe theory. Both the past and present are real, but the future does not yet exist, and so is not real. With every day, month, or year that passes, the number of real things increases. So the universe must therefore be getting bigger. Three, eternalism, the block universe theory. The past, present, and future all exist and are real, but we only have direct experience of the present and indirectly experience the past through our memories. We haven't yet experienced the future, but it is real and it exists waiting for us to experience it. Right, let's take theory one first of all. The presentist theory, only the present exists. Is the present a single, indivisible moment, or does the present have duration? It's a really good question, actually. Some believe that the present exists. Some believe that if the present exists, it must have duration, because nothing without duration can exist. The Greek philosopher Zeno of Elea, famous for his paradoxes, which have troubled many thinkers over the last 2,500 years, suggested that time was composed of a series of instants which cannot be subdivided. An instant is the smallest possible part of time. An instant, he thought, cannot be divisible. Otherwise, it could be divided up into smaller parts and therefore wouldn't be the smallest part of time and wouldn't be an instant. He reasoned that if an instant is not divisible, it cannot have duration. Aristotle quoted Zeno's paradoxes, including the one about the arrow in flight, in his work Physics. He believed that Zeno was wrong and that time could be infinitely subdivided. Quote, "Time is not composed of indivisible nows, no more than is any other magnitude." But if the present has duration, then there must be some sort of time lapse between the past and the future which the present occupies. Yes? Take a musical melody. As you listen to the notes, they disappear into the past. And, according to the presentist theory, they cease to exist. Even a single note has a certain time duration, so that as you listen to, say, the middle part of the note, the start has already become history and unreal, as it were. So we can say that the musical melody and even each individual note must exist in the present and the past, which, according to the presentist theory, means that only part of the note is real, which seems to me a little strange. This brings us to our second theory, the growing universe theory. According to this, both the past and present are real, but the future does not yet exist. As time passes, the number of real things increases, so the real universe must therefore be getting bigger. This would allow our melody time in which to exist. As we listen to the middle part of the melody, we're able to remember the first part, but we remember it at the same time as we listen to the next part. When the melody ends, we remember the whole thing as a sequence which took place over time. Memory is so important, isn't it? Memory is vitally important in the nature of time. This has led many thinkers to claim that the present has duration. William James, 1890, suggested that it is impossible to logically refute Augustine's claim. Lost my place. Sorry. It's impossible to logically refute Augustine's claim that time does not exist, but it is also clear that in some way time does exist. He thought that it might be possible to analyze the nature of time itself, but that we can analyze the way in which we experience time, or at least experience events in time. He devised a theory of time perception for which he used the term specious present, in which the present does have duration. The word specious, as you may know, means something which seems to be true, but which may not be actually correct. What he is really suggesting here is that, although reality may not be exactly like his theory suggests, his description of our experience of time is the only viable way we have so far developed of making sense of time itself. He seems to be agreeing with Kant here, who, as I said earlier, claimed that we as humans construct a concept of space and time in order to make sense of the world around us, which we can't experience as it really is. Kant thought that we experience the phenomena of life, and we can know exactly what that is, but really, things as they really are noumena and are completely unknown to us. James claimed that the durationless present of Zeno and Augustine must somehow exist, but he wrote, "It can never be a fact of our experience." He suggested that the spacious present, that is, not as it really is present, is about 12 seconds long. The verse of a pop song may last somewhere between 15 to 25 seconds, so that the spacious present allows us to have a direct experience of at least one line of the song, perhaps two or three, making up what James called a unity of experience. This brings us back to our third theory, eternalism, or block universe. Past, present, and future all exist. Time is just one dimension of the four-dimensional reality along which we travel, just as we do along the three spatial dimensions. The future is already there. An analogy might be to think of traveling in time as if we were traveling along a road. We directly experience the bit we are on now as the present. We experience as memory the bit we traveled on at some time in the past. And we haven't yet experienced the next bit, but it is already there, and we are moving towards it in the future. Imagine that I am playing a melody on the guitar. If the future already exists, then the melody which I am playing, let's say I'm halfway through, is already complete in the future. If, for instance, I make a mistake and play a wrong note, there is a sense in which the mistake has already been made before I get to it. The listener has not yet heard the wrong note in the present, but we have the, to me, rather strange idea that the listener is really already experiencing the mistake in the future. Crazy. Also, that, although I haven't yet played the wrong note in the present, there is a sort of future present in which I'm really playing the wrong note. I do occasionally play wrong notes on the guitar. So, in conclusion, let's look again at your two opposing ideas of time. The Platonic view is that time is a sort of container for events, a container which would still exist even if no events occurred within it. The Aristotelian view is that time cannot exist without events, because time is change, and change is the temporal relationship between events. This suggests that when we speak of time, we're actually speaking about the relationship between events, which goes along quite well, I think, with James' notion of the specious present. I quite like James's idea of a 12-second present. It seems to give me time to live. Anyway, although I intend to undertake a lot more research in this area, it seems to me at the moment that it is the Aristotelian view coupled with the growing universe theory that makes more sense than any other theory, and which is also the most compatible with many of the ideas of modern science. I also believe that James' notion of the specious present is the most useful way which I have so far found that allows me to make some sense of the concept of time. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.